Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Battlefront 2. I played it on the Xbox One, it's also available on the PC and PS4. Okay, so first things first, I am not going to factor in the star cards thing that has been brought up enough, and the fact that you can't actually buy the currency to buy loot boxes at the moment means that people weren't paying to win, as it were. And from what I played, I'm not going to say that I really noticed it. I definitely went up against guys with high-ranking star cards, and I still killed them. So I think skill matters a bit more. Let's jump into the story, which, honestly, the story at times is good, but at other times it really falls short. There were only a couple of very memorable moments in it, and they weren't so memorable that I'm gonna sit here and be like, wow, this is a great Star Wars story. I will say that as the game stands, as I review it, there's definitely gotta be DLC coming for the story, because where it ends, there's just way too much of a cliffhanger. Where they leave you at raises some interesting questions, but it's such a cliffhanger, you know that DLC is coming, so it's a very incomplete story mode. So that is disappointing to me. I have played other games where, like, the true ending is, in fact, DLC, like Asura's Wrath, but the difference being that actually had a solid story to begin with, whereas this was more or less a mediocre story. Next up, the audio. Honestly, the audio is really good in this game. The music is very Star Wars. I mean, that's not that surprising. And the voiceover work is very well done. The sound effects are exactly what you would expect from a Star Wars game. They put you in that Star Wars universe. It's good. It's really good. Zipping around in a TIE fighter or flying an X-Wing, they sound like they do in the movies, so that's really, it's what you want in a game like this. Now we get into the gameplay mechanics and that kind of stuff. So first off, there are only 5 multiplayer modes. That in and of itself is kind of disappointing, but all at once, considering that the first one had a bunch of multiplayer modes and really most of them were a complete waste of time. I mean, yeah, there were a bunch, but there really was a lack of variety. So I think consolidating it to 5, not a bad idea, but all at once you still feel like you're kind of missing out. That having been said, for me, the 2 big modes were Galactic Assault and Starfighter Assault. I did enjoy the Heroes versus Villains. That was actually a lot of fun. But I definitely noticed in the boots on the ground kind of game modes, there's a distinct lack of bots still, which in Galactic Assault is honestly disappointing. Because A, there's fewer players than there were in, say, Battlefield 1, which, yeah, there's no bots, but there's also 2 teams that are massive. And yes, I generally don't like to make comparisons, but it's kind of unavoidable since Galactic Assault is basically whatever the mode was where you move from theater to theater in Battlefield 1. Not to say that it wasn't enjoyable, because I did have fun playing that mode and Starfighter Assault. The others, I never really clicked with, so they don't matter much to me. That having been said, though, once again, it feels like there's too few maps. It doesn't really mix it up that you switch sides. Who cares? Then, of course, you've got your campaign mode, which was pretty short. It was not as short as I had heard. Like, somebody told me it was only gonna be like 4 hours. It took a bit longer than that, but it still was not a long campaign. I also want to complain about the fact that there is no hardcore mode, because while it's not painfully missing, it is missing, and I think it would help the game overall. Also, the menus, they lag like hell for some reason. Why they lag like that, I don't know, but it is not really okay. I didn't find it any easier to get my hands on the heroes in the boots on the ground kind of mode. It is much easier in the Starfighter Assault, which was nice because back in the first game, I never got to pilot a hero ship, and that was intensely disappointing, whereas this one I did finally get to pilot a few. So I mean, I guess that addresses that, so I will move on to the controls, which when you're using a blaster and when you're flying, that works very well. It's excellent, honestly. The mechanics, like, there are, for the most part I should say, excellent. I didn't have a problem hitting what I was aiming for. I didn't have a problem while I was flying. I mean, anything that went wrong was generally on my end. The one thing that is bordering on really awful is the fact that crouch and dodge are on the same button. So you might be trying to crouch behind an object and you might accidentally dodge to the side or something and you might get wrecked because of that. So that is just poor mapping on their end. I will say, in the story mode, when you're piloting, what is it, the AT-ATs? Ah, man. The aiming on those is so sloppy. It's really unpleasant to use. But overall, I didn't have a massive problem with the controls. One thing I did have a pretty massive problem with was during one of the single player missions, like the game just started to glitch way the fuck out. I'm just gonna stop talking for a minute and include those clips because it was really kind of horrendous. I actually had to restart that mission in order to get that to work. Like trying to reload the last checkpoint didn't work. It was busted. Lastly, the graphics. They're not terrible, but they're really inconsistent. Like when you're playing, they all look the same, but during cutscenes in the campaign, there's some weird stuff going on. Like sometimes they will look very good and other times they will not look so good. They'll look pretty dated, in fact. It was bizarre. Also, there were some weird, like, popping in of certain images. Specifically, I had been firing blasters down a hall at an enemy, and as I walked up to the door, there was no, like, blaster burns, and then I suddenly hit a point, and pop, they were there. I played around with it a little bit, back and forth, and yeah, it was weird like that, because they would just pop in and out of existence. That's kind of garbage. Overall, I think it's easiest to say that this game is a giant meh in the universe. While the story has potential, and definitely had potential, it never felt as epic as it could have. It felt kind of cartoonish. Overall, while I did enjoy game modes, I didn't, like, love them. In fact, I was like, I'd rather be playing something else half the time, which that's never a good thing. So to put it simply, I don't have anything I particularly hate about this game, but I also didn't love playing this game, so I can't really recommend it. Honestly, I would just say skip it, because if a game just makes you feel meh at the end of the day, then why play it? Why own it? Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me what your favorite starfighter is from the Star Wars universe? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share or subscribe. Have a good one. I also had fun. God damn it.